I
Alright,
guess
that's...
whenever you're ready.
Yep, we should be live now, so... Um, oh, and someone else has joined the call. That should be fine, they should all be muted. And anyway, so we're doing a debate on abortion today, so you had a problem with my evictionist stance. Do you want to, like, just run
Yes.
down any problems you have with my stance?
Yeah, so basically, though I do agree with your, what's that called? Your,
Evictionism?
the questions that you asked the other pro-lifer, I do actually agree with, what you said and all, but the terminology doesn't really match the real life process, which was it doesn't really articulate like the real life process of a child and a mother, and I just don't know how people can call it slavery, aggression, and what's that other word? And trespassing, exactly. So I would like you to articulate that matter for me, if you don't mind, please.
Sure, so the reason why we'd say a baby is a trespasser is because they're in the mother's womb without the mother wanting them there. And that's... you are a trespasser on someone's property if you are in some way invasive of their property without their consent. And the reason why we would say the mother is a slave if you are having a pro life stance is because she's being forced to care for a child, which she does not want to care for. That's a type of slavery. You still there?
Aggression part? Yeah, I'm still here.
What are you asking now?
Like the aggression stance, how does that...
Well, aggression is the initiation of conflict. So if there's conflict between the mother and the baby over who gets to use the womb, then we say that the baby is the aggressor, I suppose.
Okay, I'm sorry, just let me gather my thoughts.
No bother.
Uh, I honestly do believe that the mother has an obligation to the child, and you still call that slavery, but I'm still obligated to go to work, to pay my bills, to essentially enjoy life. So am I then a slave to the system?
Well, I would say you aren't obligated to go to work. If you wanted to, for some reason, one day you just didn't show up to work, that's fine. You haven't aggressed against anybody necessarily there. Um, but then you're not going to get paid, right? They don't have to still pay you.
Right,
And the
right,
reason why you'd be obligated to pay bills is because you've transferred title of that money to someone else, right? If I say, right, I'll give you $5 in exchange for that hot dog, then you give over the hot dog, then I just run off with the money and the hot dog, then I've stolen from you. I have stolen $5 from you because it's
right.
your $5 now. That's why you'd be obligated to do that, and it wouldn't be slavery. But there is nothing like this in the case of the mother and the child. She has, I see no way that she has any sort of positive obligation to care for a child. Right? Where does this obligation come from?
I guess, I mean, I guess since the child cannot work or perform tasks, or I mean, the child cannot live without the mother or the guardian.
Okay, so
So,
sorry, I'll let
go
you finish.
ahead.
So you would say that person A has some obligation to help person B if person B would die without person A.
In a case of like a mother or child, yes. If it would be like say me and you, I would have no obligation to take care of you. But like I said, the child can't do anything in of it itself. So therefore, the mother would have to be obligated to take care of the child.
So why would there be an obligation for a mother to keep her child alive, but there wouldn't be an obligation for you to keep me alive? Like, what's the difference between those relationships?
Well, I mean, you're an adult and a child's just a child. I mean, it has no. A child cannot live without a guardian or a mother. So, I mean, would it be feasible for me to just abandon my child just because I don't want to take care of it? I mean, is that like a form of evictionism if I just keep them outside in like the freezing cold or the extreme weather or
Well, you wouldn't be obligated to care for your child, right? Um, but you wouldn't be allowed to arbitrarily murder them or anything like that. So you'd have to actually go ahead and abandon them, which means putting, for in the case of a child, what it takes to abandon a child is to put them up for adoption. So you'd have to,
yeah.
leave them on the church steps or something like that, and that's perfectly fine.
But if I don't find a suitable person to adopt them, could I just leave them outside then, or
Well, yeah, if no one wants to care
just
for this child, then they're, nobody's obligated to care for the child, and if nobody's willing to do this, then the child's probably going to die. But the same thing is true for me, right? If I contracted some terrible illness and I couldn't live without the help of others, that doesn't imply that others have an obligation to help me, right? Other people might want to take it upon themselves to help me, but they aren't obligated to, right? If nobody is willing to on the entire planet Earth help me out, then I'm probably going to die, right? But that doesn't imply that there's any
yeah.
crime afoot.
So so what you're saying is a mother don't have responsibility to the child if she doesn't want to take care of the child, she's free to do so.
Yeah, she doesn't have
Um,
any legal responsibility. I would say she may have a moral responsibility to take care of her child, but she doesn't have a legal one, right? She is allowed to not take care of her child. There's nothing about a mother and child relationship which suddenly imbues the mother with any sort of positive obligations.
hmm. So here's an analogy on evictionism. I, I would like to bring up. If we like in outer space and I suddenly decided that I don't want you in my spaceship and I just let you float off to outer space. I mean, would what would you say then?
Well, I would say there's probably if you've got a spaceship, I imagine it's fairly easy to zip down and open the door whilst on planet Earth, right? So if that is something which is feasible, then you would be obligated to take that path because that would be non-harmful of me, and I'm allowed to exclude you from harms against my body, right? But if it's not feasible, if it's something which, maybe this ship is just out in the middle of nowhere, there's nowhere to land,
Yeah.
then yeah, you would be allowed to just kick me out.
So I wouldn't be responsible for you dying in outer space?
Well, not legally, so it wouldn't be murder.
Not legally? Huh. I would honestly consider that act to be murder because you cannot physically survive in outer space.
Well, it might be the case that I can't physically survive in outer space, but that doesn't imply that it's murder to kick me out of the shuttle, because, assuming that you own the shuttle, then you own the resources which can save me. Like, you could imagine an equivalent scenario where I'm already floating outside in, like, a spacesuit, and I've only got, like, a few minutes of oxygen left. And you're like, I don't want to help you. And then you don't let me into your shuttle. Right? Either way, I'm dying. Right? But, like, you own the
Right.
resources which would be needed to save me.
Like I said, because I think in like a moral sense, it would be better for me to hold off on that eviction and be sure that you're on land and like on Earth and all, so you can get out and just live normally afterwards,
Right, that might be the moral course of action. It might be that it would be moral for you to save my life and, to not kick me out, right? Not leave me out in the cold death of space. And that might be what you should do. But it does not follow from that it's criminal for you to not do that. Right? There are plenty of immoral things which are not criminal. Like, it's probably immoral to, shoot heroin into your eye veins, right? That's probably not a good idea. But nevertheless, you're not hurting anybody by doing this. Did you have any other contentions with my position?
That's about it. I still don't think I still wouldn't view myself as a evictionist though. And I'm not really too sure what would convince you that pro-life is a better option. I'm trying to think about what I could do to persuade you otherwise.
Well, I would say that probably the point of contention between evictionism and pro-life is whether or not there exists some legal obligation on the behalf of the mother to care for the child. I don't see any way that this legal obligation could come about, right? Some people might come up with various, some people have this theory of implicit contract and stuff like that, which I think is mostly bogus, but some people will say, well, if you invite someone onto your boat, then you're not allowed to just kick them off in the middle of the ocean, right? Because you have an implicit contract that you will deliver them back to shore. Right? Whether or not that's true, we can put aside. Let's just assume that is correct for now. Well, it's not the case that it couldn't be the case that this would apply to a mother and a baby because during the act of copulation, the baby doesn't exist yet, right? So you can't have a contract with someone who doesn't exist. So that can't be the source of the obligation. But I'm not sure of any other way that you could come up with a theory of positive obligation, right? Where does the obligation come from? Is the question.
Where does the obligation come from? I don't know if I could answer that like right offhand. Uh, gonna have to get back with you on that one.
But did you have anything else to talk about?
Mm, trying to think about something else. Just give me a minute.
Alrighty.
Uh, yeah, I I can't say I do have anything else right offhand.
Yeah, well, I suppose we can wrap up there then.
Mm. But I actually do have a question for you though. Like, how long have you been an evictionist, by the way?
Probably a few years. Like,
A few years?
I learned about it shortly after coming to libertarianism or anarcho-capitalism, I should say.
Oh,
Yeah, so probably a few years.
okay. I want to say I've been pro-life for ever since I could remember. Um, are you are you gonna be up for a part two debate or?
I mean, only if there's like some new, you know, big contention to argue over, right? I don't want to be debating if there isn't anything new to be said, right?
Right, I got you. I got you.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. Well, I just wasn't expecting this debate to be so short.
well, that's how it sometimes is.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
take care.
All right, you too. Later.
And boop.